Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing good and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy revealed a few days ago that Tuesday was set to be their first day of scrims back. He thought they might not even need that and wanted a few extra days off because we have so many weeks of qualifiers upcoming before Major 2 in Birmingham. But with the OpTic Scrims back in business, they did decide to turn the streams on and some pretty interesting results to dive through over the coming minutes. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. We're going to talk about a couple of things, starting with the state of the Pro League. So Zuma talked about the Stallions. He's trying to find a roster right now. He's trying to look at options because, well, some of his players got poached to the Pro League in Cloud9, as we understand. There's, of course, also talk about could the Stallions join the Pro League, the New Jersey Stallions, or whatever the case is. Now, Bush revealed at the end of their video that they put together, which is done phenomenally well, and it's great to see all the support on that content. We talked about it in yesterday's video as well. They put together a video right at the ends. There was some discussion about a CDL team interested in Bush getting their spot, but they would want $1 million US for the privilege. Now, as I said yesterday, $1 million is a number that is absolutely ripe for negotiation, but nonetheless, it's still a lot of money, even if you negotiate that down to a certain degree. And almost certainly more than that spot right now is worth, you might argue. So what would that look like for the Stallions? Could they come in? Zuma says a lot of it right now is investors, to try and fund us, to get the spot, help with the foundation of the team. There are clearly a number of teams, maybe just one or two, but a couple of teams anyway that want out. They want out of the Pro League, they want to sell their spot. Zuma says he owns the trademark, he owns the logo. I guess we'll see from there, right? Will it be, could it be a part of FaZe in the same way? Maybe, maybe not, but yeah, very excited to see what the future of that holds. Again, with all the frustration we talked about earlier on today with the state of the scene, there are still some positives that we have right now. This is also pretty funny. Mercules managed to get himself banned, apparently got a warning message after playing his 3 placements. So, I don't know, if he was shadow banned or something, but Mercules, guess he was too good. They thought he was a little bit dodgy, and he was trying to talk to the Traixx boys to get him unbanned from ranked. But Mercules, of course, champion of Esports World Cup 2025 with OpTic, and 2026 we now have an update on the format. Now, this was the original graphic that they put out. Tournament overview, we got Scrap, we got Shotzzy, we got Ghosty, $1.8 million, just a smidge lower than the $2 million COD World Championship prize. The qualifiers, EWC title defender, so they come back whoever they were, but of course they were in the Pro League, they are OpTic. The other 11 pro teams from the Call of Duty League, the best 3 teams of Challengers Finals, and then they do the EWC Last Chance qualifier. So pretty similar setup to what we've seen over the last couple of years. The tournament dates, however, 5th of August through to the 9th of August. That spans over a 5-day period, and typically the Esports World Cup before has been a 4-day tournament. So when we saw these dates, because this is all we had, a couple of weeks ago we saw these dates, but we weren't sure what the format was going to be. So we thought, okay, maybe it's going to be double a limb, right? Because you're adding an extra day, that gives the opportunity to do double a limb. The answer is no, it's still single a limb, but it's probably a better version of single limb. Now, what was really turning heads here was this. In the group stages, it describes the matches as best of 3. And we've not had best of 3 matches in COD apart from in challenges for a very, very long time. Now, there is an update to this graphic. This is the updated version. Everything is the same, but they've now said it's best of 5. So that was a mistake. This is now corrected. But this is the format, so it's different to previous years. This was the bracket last year. There was 4 groups of 4 teams. So the 12 pro teams, of course, and then 4 amateur teams, basically, they come to the tournament. Last year, OpTic and 5FaZe, of course, they made it through Group A. But it was a GSL-style group system, so win 2 before you lose 2 across 4 groups. 8 teams go through total, they make the playoffs, and then it was single elimination playoffs, best of 5s, until the grand final, which was best of 7. There was a 3rd place consolation match as well, and you guys know the rest. So that has been the format for the last couple of years. The group stages, most people are reasonably happy with. I don't see a massive issue with the group stages. I think GSL style it's not great in the sense that you can have like one specific matchup, that you are really good at and you can beat that team twice to qualify, like that can happen, but mostly GSL style you tend to get the best teams that make it through. Like, you know, just for example, 100 Thieves, they beat Gentlemates twice to get through the groups. They lost to Vancouver, so and yeah, that meant they were the second best team, but it's also possible that they just have a really good matchup there and they only have to beat one team to qualify, but they've got to do it twice, that kind of thing. So GSL style has its pros and its cons. But the new format is very different. So the 16 teams are now going to be split into 2 groups of 8, and it's double elimination in those groups of 8. So presumably that is just a double elim best of 5 bracket like we normally see at the tournaments, right? Top 4 per group qualify to the playoffs. So I imagine they just play a bracket as if it's a tournament, and then if you win 2 games in the bracket, which would normally guarantee you top 3, for example at the major, that will secure you to the playoffs, and then there's a losers bracket to get to the playoffs as well. So an interesting idea, an interesting solution. I don't know if I love it. It's kind of weird, no, to have like what appears to be a bracket play format for the groups, double elim, and I guess we've had that in the previous seasons. GSL is also double elim bracket for the groups, but it's only 4 teams rather than 8. But in this case, it's effectively a tournament bracket, it feels like. But the actual bracket for the playoffs is not double elim, it's only single elim. Most people want it to be double elim again. But they're going single elim. I think they're keeping that across. It's like a standard format across a lot of the esports that they run here. So 8 teams will make it through, 4 from each group. And then single elim bracket best of 7 and grand finals best of 9. So this, I think, is the key difference maker here. We have had this back in the day. I think if you are going to do a single elim bracket, best of 7 is preferable to best of 5. But I still think double elim best of 5 is a better format, right? Like, we have done single elim best of 7s before. For example, it happens back in Black Ops 3. The playoffs are exactly that, stage 1, stage 2 playoffs. The idea is, okay, the best team wins more often, which probably is marginally true, but it's still the case of, like, you've got one series. If you don't turn up in this one series, then you're dusted anyway. You don't have a second chance. If you just, you know, happen to turn up and play bad in that one match, it does give you a little bit longer to get back into a series, does give you the possibility of some crazy reverse sweep action, but I'd still prefer a double elim best of 5 bracket, but I guess they're already using up that idea at the group stage this time. So it's all a little bit interesting. That's what's going on at the Esports World Cup. Shotzzy, of course, defending champion there with OpTic as well. They were streaming some practice last night. A couple of interesting scrim sets. They played the Falcons. So Falcons, as we know, they have been pretty good so far in stage 1. I think they were considered to be probably top 5, top 6 after Major 1. Yeah, they finished 8th, but they lost to OpTic and the Major got slammed by them, and they lost to FaZe as well, who went on to do some pretty good things. The Scar, that was a win for the Falcons early doors. Rare to see Celium go negative, but it happened here. I like that the names get put up here, right, compared to, you know, JP's camera usually blanks everything out. But anyway, these are some of the notable scoreboards here. The Colossus, the Exposure. And as OpTic warmed up in the series and warmed up in the day, they were cooking in the hard points. They dominated the Den 6-1, but then they lost both the Exposure and the Scar. So it is pretty interesting because there was quite a bit of talk about Falcons overload and whether they really know what they're doing. Because everyone was saying, oh, that the only reason why they do the park the bus is because they literally don't know how to cap the point. So they have to park the bus to get wins. But, you know, they scored 6 points on both of these games, so maybe they're starting to figure something out. The other series, though, which was maybe more interesting in some respects, was OpTic versus Ravens, because this was a slammage, and it wasn't close really at all. There was an Exposure, which was 250-248, so Ravens nearly won this map. Exceed 38 in 24 for the loss, unfortunately for him. But, yeah, some pretty rough showings here at times. OpTic were having their way with these guys, and it's just interesting to see, because Ravens, of course, were crushing it online going into the major tournament. They were 5-0 with Exceed. Then that quite swiftly turned around at the major. They got absolutely bodied. The question is, will they come back to LAN and be good again? Is that what we should expect? Or should we expect them to be a broken team, right? They come back from the major, they know that mentally they're compromised. You know, Shotzzy goes 18 in 32 this map, doesn't even have any overloads, and OpTic still won it 4-3 on the Den. And then the exposure they won slightly more comfortably, and then they won the Scar even more comfortably than that. The Mercy rule came into play. So not the greatest scrim set for the boys on Ravens, and look, we shall see if Ravens can replicate what they were doing going into Major 1 when they get to the Major 2 qualifiers. But this is big for them, right? Like, knowing that team, knowing that they're clearly not all that on LAN, this is their, you know, I said it on the show, I think this is their Roman Empire, right? Like, these next 11 matches, they could qualify for Champs, Ravens, if they just have a great run these next 6 weeks. There are enough points on the line here for Ravens to qualify for Champs pretty much just based on this upcoming run. So this is when they need to do it, because at the end of the year things get even more challenging, I think. So intrigue to your thoughts in the comments below on that. Just a couple of final things. The Thieves boys sitting down here for some content. Scrap managed to make his way onto the thumbnail with this face. HyDra doesn't look especially happy either. So anyway, we'll see what these Thieves boys got up to. We'll see if they're any good or not when they actually play in a few days' time. Nadeshot was talking about Neum, and obviously he's got belief in him as a player. Again, if anyone on a team with Scrap, HyDra and aBeZy should be in a pretty good position on paper. Can Neum deliver the consistency they need? That's a good question. Of course, Kenny was there until very recently. Rambo talked a little bit about Kenny as well and said, like, could he go to challenges? I just don't see it, right? We talked about it with Don on the show the other day. Kenny is, as a recording, not confirmed what his next plans are. But, you know, I think a break at the very least makes an awful lot of sense. Could Kenny still come back in an upcoming year like Modern Warfare 4, a game that could suit him better? Maybe. You know, does he have the fire? Does he have the passion? Does he have the ability to get on a great team? I mean, it even happened to Crim, kind of for different reasons. But at the end of Crimsix's career, it wasn't the easiest teammate, let's say. And that's not the case with Kenny. It's kind of happened with Kenny for different reasons. But for many years, because Crim was Crim, he would kind of play with whoever he wanted. That then changed going into Vanguard, and then certainly going into Modern Warfare 2. They were no longer the options that Crim had, because he burned a lot of bridges, like that podcast he did, Bridges Burned, or whatever. I think it was just called Burned Bridges, actually. And that meant that, I mean, when Crimsix came out on stream and said that he was basically begging Awakening to pick him up, because, like, that was his only option, because no one else would play with him anymore. And of course, if Crim was still the best player ever, like, he was still, I mean, he was still good towards the end of his career, Crim. But if he was still Crimbot from Ghost and he was dropping insane numbers, it wouldn't have mattered. But when you're not, then if those relationships don't exist in the same way anymore, then it becomes more difficult to value competing still, right? Like, if you're Kenny, you've had a lot of great opportunities over the last couple of years, of course, on OpTic, and, you know, people weren't maybe expecting the Thieves opportunity to come through. He wasn't their primary choice. They wanted Cell, they wanted Drazah. Kenny came on, and I think he was a decent option for them in the circumstances. Look, should they have just kept Ghosty? Probably that is the main talking point. But if Kenny does continue, it's not like he's going to be walking into God squads again, and that probably makes things even more challenging. Of course, having to Slasher the last few years of his career as well before he decided to call it a day. So very much on Twitter your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
Why is there a fucking
It's
diamond?
just Scrappy finals!